Now, then I think Nikhil, you need to record, okay? Hello. Nikhil, it's not letting me record it, so you better record, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, dear. So, warm welcome to our class on the Buddha and his Dhamma. Today, we will begin with paying our respect and tribute to this very great monk who died today, and his name is well known throughout the Buddhist world. His name is Master Thich Nhat Hanh, and he was a very profound sort of scholar, practitioner, activist, and whatnot. And his contribution to Buddhism in the world today is towering, and we will just pay our respectful salutation to this very great man who just departed from all of us. So we will chant Namo Tassa, and we will begin from there. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. So today we are going to look at the part 4 of the book 2 of the Buddha and his Dhamma. And as we have been following the classes and the journey of the Buddha, this part 4 is, I think, very interesting and somewhat enigmatic. As I told you that in book 2, Baba Sahib Ambedkar has introduced a lot of profound teachings in this section, and it is not just about converting people, but also the Buddha actually involved in dialogue with the people with whom he's talking. So we have seen in the previous parts as to how the Buddha converted the 5 Parivrajaks, then his 2 great disciples, Sariputra and Moglayan, and the 3 Kashyap brothers, and Bimbisar, and Prasannajit, and Jivaka, and so on and so forth. So today this part 5 is about what we can say call from home, because we know that the Buddha was from Kapilavastu, and his parents lived there, his wife lived there, and his son Rahul lived there. And while he was in Rajagraha, that's where he was with his disciple, that's where he was residing that time, he received a message from his father to see him for the last time. So the part 5, the part 4 begins from there, and these are the various sections of the part 4, and they are like Shuddhodana and the last look, meeting Yeshodhara and Rahul, 3rd reception by the Sakyas, 4th last attempt to make him a householder, 5 the Buddha's answer, 6 minister's reply, 7 Buddha's determination. So that is the scheme of the part 4, and we will begin with very interesting sort of part of the Buddha's life as he goes home, the mystical home after a long time, after 7 years. So he was there in Rajagraha with his disciples, and then Shuddhodana came to know that the Buddha is residing in Rajagraha. So he sent a word to him that he wishes to see his son before he dies. And he says like this: others have had the benefit of his doctrine, but not his father nor his relatives. So that's his lamentation. He says that now he has become the Buddha, his teacher, his teaching should benefit him and his relatives. So the message is, of course, carried by the friend of the Buddha when he was growing up, Kaludayan. Kaludayan is a very interesting sort of a character in the Buddhist text. He's always there in terms of, he's like his best friend. The Buddha's one of the best friends, and also his Shuddhodana, he's apparently very close to Kaludayan, and the son of one of the courtiers of Shuddhodana. So he goes and talks to the Buddha. He says, "O world honor Tathagata, your father looks for your coming as the lily longs for the rising of the sun." You see this use of language, this poetics of the Buddhism has to be, read, think over. The images are so profound, so concrete, that they have a power to move us. This language is full of, I would say, images that can draw our emotions out. So, how the feelings of Shuddhodana towards Siddhartha, his son, who is now a Buddha, is captured in these words. The lily longs for the rising of the sun. That's how he is desperate to see his son. So, of course, the Blessed One consented to the request of his father and sent out on the journey to his father's house, accompanied by a large number of his disciples. So Buddha went with all, he went with Sariputra, Moggla, and all his disciples. That must be a very beautiful sight. And but before his departure to the Kapilavastu, Kaludan had already left, and he has already informed Shuddhodana, Mahaprajapati, and all the Sakyas that the Buddha is going to pay a visit to the Kapilavastu, and that was a word all over the places, in Kapilavastu. So as soon as the Buddha arrived, Shuddhodana and Mahaprajapati went out to meet him, and they were struck by the Buddha's appearance. And this verse number 9, I will read, and please listen carefully. This indeed was their son. The man, the Buddha who was approaching, was indeed their son. These were the features of Siddhartha. And now behold this line. How near was the great Samana to their heart, and yet what a distance lay between them. So the Samana, the Mahasamana, was so close to their heart, but yet there was a distance between them, because he has now renounced his home and he has become homeless. He has become the Tathagata, the Buddha. That noble Muni was no longer Siddhartha, their son. The noble Muni. You see this word of the Buddha's Dhamma is actually, we can say, is like a tribute of Baba Sahib Ambedkar to the Buddha. The use of the words, the feelings towards the Buddha that gets reflected in every page of the Buddhism is so profound and so evocative, I would say, that it draws something best out of us towards the Buddha. That noble Muni was no longer Siddhartha, their son. He was now the Buddha, the Blessed One, the Holy One, Lord of Truth and Teacher of mankind. So, Suddhodana knew that now he is not his son, he is the Buddha. So, even after 7 years, he has longed to see, he has longed for this moment. And then a moment, and when it came, he was so full of joy, and he was uttering, as Baba Sahib Ambedkar writes in verse number 11, the word, Siddhartha in his heart, because he's his father. He's longing for his son, and he's uttering these words, Buddha, 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 in his Siddhartha in his heart silently. And he's saying, Siddhartha, come back to your old father and be his son again. But seeing the determination of his son, he suppressed his sentiments. Desolation overcame him and Mahaprajapati. So now there is a dialogue between Suddhodana and Buddha, and I think those dialogues are so important, and they carry so much of a spiritual message for all of us. So what he says to Buddha, I would offer thee my kingdom. I will give you my kingdom, said the king. But if I did, thou wouldn't account it but as ashes. Even if I give you the kingdom for you will just treat it like the ashes. That is what Shuddhodana tells to the Buddha. And now this verse number 14. First, I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to explain the significance of verse number 14. It's so profound, this verse number 14. And the Lord said, I know that the king's heart is full of love, and that for his son's sake he feels deep grief. But let the ties of love that bind you to the son whom you lost embrace with equal kindness all your fellow beings, and you will receive in his place a greater one than your son Siddhartha. You will receive one who is the teacher of truth, the preacher of righteousness, and the bringer of peace and of nirvana will enter into your heart. This verse number 14, it's like an enigmatic verse. And the interpretation that I am going to provide you, we have to think it very carefully from all different directions. So here is a father who says that he will give him everything, and the son, the Buddha, says that he can feel his grief and his love towards him. But he says, let the ties of love that bind you to the son whom you lost embrace with equal kindness all your fellow beings. This has been like a keynote of the Buddha and his Dhamma: love for all. This unlimited maitri for all that lives. And here Buddha is very, very, very clear about this. And Baba Ambedkar has brought it very beautifully here. Embrace with equal kindness all your fellow beings. And then what happens? And you will receive in his place a greater one than your son Siddhartha. You see, these two lines are so important, that if we have this love for our fellow beings, what happens? We receive something that is a greater one than your son Siddhartha. So, our love, what Buddha is effectively telling Suddhodana, that the love limited to his only son is important. But, if he embraces all the fellow human beings with that feeling of love that he feels for his son, if he can extend that to all, fellow beings, what happens? Suddhodana will receive something greater than his own son Siddhartha. And what he will receive in return, Suddhodana? He will receive one who is the teacher of truth, the preacher of righteousness, and the bringer of peace and of nirvana will enter into your heart. So how to bring the Buddha in your heart? How to make Buddha your own? How to make Buddha your own son, your own daughter, your own father or mother? There is this very beautiful paragraph number 14. I find it very enigmatic, in a sense that the Buddha is effectively telling Suddhodana that he will receive more. He will receive more than he could receive from his only son if he has this love, this limitless love for the fellow beings. And that love will itself will give Suddhodana. What would the love give? Love for all sentient beings give to Suddhodana. He will receive the teacher of the truth, the preacher of righteousness, and bringer of peace and of nirvana will enter into your heart. So you see, this is very interesting, that the keynote of the Buddha's Dhamma is the compassion, love for all fellow beings. And this is all over the places in the Buddha and his Dhamma. So if we want to receive the Buddha, if we want to receive the Tathagata in our life, if we want to have nirvana in our life, if we want to have peace in our life, if we want to understand the truth, the most important and the essential condition is to cultivate that love for all fellow beings. And it's a very high ideal to cultivate love for all fellow human beings. So upon hearing this, Suddhodana trembles with joy when he heard the melodious words of his son, the Buddha, and clasping his hands, exclaimed with tears in his eyes, "Wonderful is the change." He says, now he realizes what the Buddha, what his son Siddhartha, now who is now Buddha, is talking about. He says, "Wonderful is the change." He cannot hold back his emotion. The overwhelming sorrow has passed away. Having understood the implications of the words of the Buddha, Suddhodana says, the overwhelming sorrow has passed away. At first, my sorrowing heart was heavy, but now I reap the fruit of your great renunciation. You see, this when the Buddha left his house, Suddhodana was, of course, sad, and he was devastated. And now what he's saying here, after listening to this very profound teachings of the Buddha as to how he can receive the Buddha, only by cultivating the love for all fellow beings. So he says, at first my sorrowing heart was heavy, but now I reap the fruit of your great renunciation. It was right that, moved by your mighty sympathy, you should reject the pleasures pleasures of power and achieve your noble purpose in religious devotion. Having found the path, you can now preach your Dhamma to all that yearn for deliverance. So you see, there are a lot of versions about how Buddha taught Shuddhodana, and this is very interesting as to how the Buddha was the teacher who understood the context. So you imagine a situation where a father is sitting in front of the son is the Buddha, the father is completely devastated, he's longing for his son, he has this tremendous love for his son, and the Buddha transformed that love for him into the love for fellow human beings, so that in that great love, Suddhodana can receive more than the love for his only son. He can receive, as the Buddha says, the truth, the righteousness, peace, and nirvana. So of course, Shuddhodana is a changed man now, because he sees the change in his son, that as to what has happened to him. And he goes home, and the next morning the Buddha gets up with his disciples, and he starts his begging round in the town of Kapilavastu. So imagine a scene: once erstwhile prince is wandering in the streets of Kapilavastu with his followers for food, begging the alms from each house. And the news spreads that the Tathagata, the Buddha, is going on alms round, and Shuddhodana hears it, and he feels very sad about this thing, and he goes to the Buddha and he says, "Why do you disgrace me thus? Do you not know that I can easily supply you and your bhikkhus with food?" So now this verse number 20 is very interesting. The Lord replied, "It is the custom of my order. This is what my Sangha does, that we beg. And by begging, by going from each house to each house, we form that bond of love with the householders." And elsewhere, Baba Ambedkar says, the bond of alms is like the bond between the people, the Buddha and the people. The Buddha doesn't beg for the food. He's not a beggar. Buddha is not a beggar. He goes from house to house to be a sharer in the suffering and the sorrows of the world, to understand what's happening in the world around him. And that's how he builds up the connection with the people, with the humanity. So, that's what he says to Shuddhodana, that it is the custom of my order. But how can this be? You are not one of them that ever begged for food. You are not the one who has ever begged for the food. How can it be your custom? How can it be your custom? You have never done it. "Yes, Father," rejoined the Lord, "you and your race may claim descent from kings." And behold this line: "My descent is from the Buddhas of old." That I am following the tradition of the Buddhas of the old. I am following the tradition of Kanaka Muni. I am following the tradition of the previous Buddhas, the Buddha Dipankar, and so on and so forth. So this is very interesting, that the Buddha is now breaking this so-called worldly ties with his family, with his ancestry, and he is now claiming that he is following his custom of the Buddhas. And it's very interesting that we are so much in the grip of our ancestries, and from where we come from, what is our source, and so on and so forth. It's not easy to shun that kind of a relationship, bond with our mundane ancestry. But the Buddha has forsaken it, and now he is claiming his ancestry from the Buddhas of the past. And in a sense that we are, if we take refuge in the Buddha and his Dhamma, we become the sons and the daughters of the Buddha. There are very beautiful word, for the daughter of the Buddha is Sakyadita, the daughter of the Sakya Buddha. And there are a lot of interesting words in Buddhism where people claim that the Buddha is their spiritual father, is their mother, who has cultivated this profound Dhamma within them. So I think this line is also very interesting. My descent is from the Buddhas of old. They begged their food and always lived on alms. You see, there is a meaning, there is a great message here for us. It's as to how we stay connected with the humanity, whether we completely shun the humanity and, live away from it, or we go from door to door. That's like Buddha's field work in the modern sense. The Buddha is going from door to door, and we know the occasions when the Buddha is offered, sometimes offered food, sometimes he's insulted, sometimes he's asked to go away, and so on and so forth. Sometimes he receives good food, sometimes he receives stale food, whatever. But the Buddha never, sways away from this custom of going from home to ask for his food, so that he stays connected with the world. And Suddhodana made no reply, and Blessed One continues. It is customary, when one has found a hidden treasure, for him to make an offering of the most precious jewel to his father. Suffer me, therefore, to offer you this treasure of mine, which is the Dhamma. And the Blessed Lord told his father, if you free yourself from dreams, if you open your mind to truth, if you be energetic, if you practice righteousness, you will find eternal bliss. Suddhodana heard the words in silence and replied, my son, what thou sayest will I endeavor to fulfill. So you see, this is what we all need to do. That is, we have to, because the Buddha's Dhamma is like a treasure, and the treasure is on, he wants to offer the best of his treasure to his father. And he says like this, that you have to free yourself from dreams. Now we are all having dreams, like, sometimes we are in the nightmare, sometimes we are in the dreams, but we all are dreaming. And our minds are close to the truth. So the Buddha tells Suddhodana, if you open your mind to truth, if you be energetic, if you practice righteousness, you will find eternal bliss. So that's his message to his father. Now this section 2, I think is also very interesting. Is about Buddha meeting Yeshodhara and Rahula. And we know that Yeshodhara has a very special place in the Buddhist tradition. Her sacrifice is considered to be, the deep feeling for her beloved husband. And we know that there are some wonderful works, particularly in Sri Lankan tradition, about Yeshodhara Vrata, something like, the lamentation of Yeshodhara, as to when Siddhartha Gautama left his home, how she lamented. And these works, poetic works, are famous as the lamentation of Yeshodhara. And she's, of course, very sad, and she doesn't go to meet him. She expects Siddhartha to come and see her. This is what Yeshodhara is. She's a very strong person. She's very profoundly, devoted to her husband. And, she asked, Buddha asked, where is Yeshodhara? And on being informed that she has refused to come, he rose straight away and went to her apartment. But as he went to his apartment, he knew that Yeshodhara will be full of love for him, full of affection for him. So he asked his two disciples, Sariputra and Moglan, to accompany him to meet to Yeshodhara. So as he, this verse number 5 describes Yeshodhara. Yeshodhara sat in a room in deep reflection. She was reflecting very deeply in her room. She's not like somebody who is swayed or, emotionally swung or like that. She is like in deep reflection. When the Blessed One entered, she was from the abundance or affection, like an overflowing vessel, unable to contain herself. So upon seeing the Buddha after a long time, she was overcome by this overflowing, affection for Siddhartha. Forgetting that the man whom she loved was Buddha, the Lord of the world, the preacher of truth, she held him by his feet and wept bitterly. Remembering, however, that Suddhodana was present, she felt ashamed and rose up, seating herself reverently at a little distance. So this verse number 8 shows the Yeshodhara's story. Suddhodana apologized for Yeshodhara and saying, this arises from her deep affection and is more than a temporary emotion. During the 7 years that she had lost her husband, when she heard that Siddhartha had shaved his head, she did likewise. When she heard that he had left off the use of perfumes and ornaments, she also refused their use. Like her husband, she had eaten at appointed times from an earthen ball only. Buddha used to use the earthen ball, pinda, to bake for his food. And this is what exactly Yeshodhara was doing. If this is more than a temporary emotion, it is not for want of courage. She is a courageous woman. The way Yeshodhara as a person, reflective, courage, and that sort of commitment is very interesting sort of a portrayal of Yeshodhara here. And Blessed One told Yeshodhara of her great merit and the courage she showed when he took Parivraja. Her purity, her gentleness, her devotion had been invaluable to him as a bodhisattva when he aspired to the highest aim of mankind to attain enlightenment. This then was her karma, and it was the result of great merits. Her grief has been unspeakable, and the glory that surrounded her spiritual inheritance increased by her noble attitude during her life and had made her a unique person. You see, this is how Baba Sahib Ambedkar describes Yeshodhara, as a unique person, as somebody who is very reflective, as somebody who has courage. And then this is a very interesting episode in the life of the Buddha. That there is Rahul, and Rahul is now 7 years old, because when Yeshodhara has just given birth to Rahul when Buddha left his home, and he is just 7. And she dresses him finely like a prince, and she says, "This holy man, whose appearance is so glorious that he looks like the great Brahma, is your father. He possesses great mines of wealth which I have not yet seen. Go to him and entreat him to put you in the possession thereof for the son, or to inherit the property of the father." That's what Yeshodhara tells Rahul to do, follow his father and ask for his inheritance. Rahul replied, "Who is my father? I know of no father but Suddhodana, because he has been brought up, by Suddhodana." So Yeshodhara took the boy in her arms, and from the window she pointed to the Lord, who happened to be near, partaking of food among the bhikkhus, informing him that he was his father and not Suddhodana. So you behold the sight that Yeshodhara is in the window with her son Rahula, and Buddha is within her view, and Buddha is partaking his food with his disciples, and she says that this is your father, he is your father, go and ask for your inheritance. So Rahul then went to him, and looking up in his face, said without fear and with much affection, he said, "Aren't thou my father?" And standing nearby him added, "Oh Samana, even your shadow is full of bliss." You see, this is so, this profound sort of faith, the devotion that Baba Sahib Ambedkar had for the Buddha is reflected everywhere in the Buddhism, and even the use of words from the mouth of Rahul to his father, "Oh Samana, even your shadow is full of bliss." So if the shadow of the Buddha is so full of bliss, how much the personality of the Buddha, how the personality of the Buddha must be, full of bliss, to be just to come in contact with the Buddha, to behold him, to talk to him, to learn from him, must be such a bliss for people. The Blessed One remained silent. When the Tathagata had finished his repast, he gave blessings and went away from the palace. But Rahul followed and asked him for his inheritance. No one prevented the boy, nor did the Blessed One himself. Then the Blessed One returned to Sariputra, saying, "My son asked for his inheritance. I cannot give him perishable treasures that will bring cares and sorrows, but I can give him the inheritance of a holy life, which is a treasure that will not perish." Addressing Rahul with earnestness, the Blessed One said, "Gold and silver and jewels have I none. But if you are willing to receive spiritual treasures and are strong to carry them and to keep them, I have plenty." My spiritual treasure is the path of righteousness. Do you desire to be admitted to the brotherhood of those who devote their life to the culture of mind, seeking the highest bliss attainable? This is how he defines his order. He says that, they are devoted to the life of culture of the mind, seeking for the highest bliss attainable. So only through the culture of mind, by cultivating mind, the highest bliss is attainable. And Rahula replied with firmness, I do. When Suddhodana heard that Rahul had joined the brotherhood of bhikkhus, he was greatly grieved. So this is the conversion of Rahul. He was a small boy and he was kept under apprenticeship for a long time, and then he became a bhikkhu, and then he became a very great man. Some of the sutras are attributed to Rahula, and they are very profound. So Rahul became one of the very important disciple of the Buddha. The reception by Sakyans. On his return to the country of the Sakyas, the Lord found his countrymen divided into two camps, one in favor and the other against him. So of course, there were people who were against him and who were in support of him. This recalled to his mind the old clash of the opinion that took place in Sakya Sangha, when the issue of war between Sakyas and Kuliyas was fought, and in which he had played so prominent a part. So those who were against him, they didn't even like to pay respect to the Buddha, but those who were for him, they decided, and this is the beginning of a tradition. It's in Thailand and in the Buddhist countries. What is the tradition? Those for him had already decided to dedicate a son per household to form a retinue for him. So that was the devotion of the Sakyas who loved him. They decided that they will encourage their son to become a bhikkhu. That's why he's called Sakya Muni, Sakya Sinham, because the Sakyans joined en masse. These now decided to enter the order and set out with Lord on his return to Rajagraha. Among the families which has decided to dedicate a son, there was a family of Amitodhan. And Amitodhan had two sons. One was Aniruddha and another was Mahanama. Anuruddha and Mahanama. And there is a very beautiful short story here that Baba Ambedkar has inserted here of the two brothers, as to how the one brother says, like Mahanama says to Aniruddha that worldly responsibilities are too much and I would like to become a bhikkhu. Aniruddha says that I am delicate, I cannot become. So his brother Mahanama tells him this, and this verse number 7 is very interesting. Let's read it. And it's a reflection on our lives, each, the way we are living our lives. 7. But come on, dear Aniruddha, I will tell you what is incident to the household life. First, you have to get your fields plowed. When that is done, you have to get them sown. When that is done, you have to get the water laid down over them. When that is done, you have to get the water laid off again. When that is done, you have to get the seeds pulled up. When that is done, you have to get the crop ripped. When that is done, you have to get the crop carried away. When that is done, you have to get it arranged into bundles. When that is done, you have to get it trodden out. When that is done, you have to get the straw picked out. When that is done, you have to get the chaff removed. When that is done, you have to get it winnowed. When that is done, you have to get the harvest garnered. When that is done, you have to do just the same next year, and the same all over again the year after that. So this is the drudgery of of our lives. We have to do this again and again. The householder's life is a life of repetition. And this paragraph is very long, and I think it's the intention of this paragraph is to just show as to how is the householder life. The life of the householder is not easy. It's very difficult, and that's what Mahanama tells Anuruddha in the verse number 7, which is a long paragraph, and which explains him that how we have to continuously go through these cycles again and again. And in the technical language, this is what is samsara, something going round again and again, the same thing happening again and again and again and again and again. The work is never over. One sees not the end of one's labor. So when shall our work be over? When shall we see the end of our labors? When shall we, still possessing and retaining the pleasures of our 5 senses, dwell at rest? Yet the work, dear Anuruddha, is never over. No end appears to our labors. There is no end to our labors. Then do you take thought for the household duties? I will go forth from the household into the life into the homeless state. So Anuruddha turns his stand and he says, now, okay, that I understand. And now you take the responsibility of the household. I will renounce the house and I will go homeless. And Anuruddha, the Sakyan, went to his mother and said to her, I want mother to go forth from the household life into the houseless state. Grant me thy permission to do so. And she refuses. She refuses 3 times. And then there is a king of Sakyan, because Sakyan was a kind of a small democracy, and the kings had taken the turns to rule the Sakyan Republic. So now at the time, Bhaddiya, the Sakyan Raja, held rule over the Sakyan, and he was a friend of Anuruddha. And the mother of Anuruddha, thinking that being so, the Raja would not be able to renounce the world, said to her son, dear Anuruddha, if Bhaddiya, the Sakyan Raja, will renounce the world, you also may go forth with him. So she puts a condition. Anuruddha's mother puts a condition to Anuruddha that if Bhaddiya becomes a bhikkhu, then you are free to become a bhikkhu. She knows that he is a king, he won't. So they are good friends, Anuruddha and Bhaddiya. So she goes to his friend. He says to Bhaddiya, verse number 14, my renunciation of the world, dear friend, is being obstructed by you. You are obstructing my renunciation. Because of you, I am not able to go forth. That's what Anuruddha tells Bhaddiya. So Bhaddiya says, then let that obstruction, dear friend, be removed. I am with you. Renounce the world according to your wish. Come, dear brother, let us both renounce the world together. I am not capable, dear friend, of giving up the household life. Whatsoever else you can ask of me, that I will do. Do you go forth alone, said Bhaddiya. Mother, dear friend, has told me that if you do so, I may. And you have even now declared, if your renunciation be obstructed by me, then let that obstruction be removed. Even with you will I renounce the world according to your wish. Come then, dear friend, let us renounce the world. And this is a very interesting discussion between Bhaddiya and Anuruddha. So he says, hold on for 7 years and I will renounce the home with you. And he says, no, 7 years, so long. Then he says, okay, 1 year. He says, no, 1 year is so long. He says 7 months. He says, no, down to 1 month and a fortnight. To each offer, Anuruddha replied, too long a time to wait. You see these words. 21, verse number 21, too long a time to wait. We cannot wait for 7 years. We cannot wait for long period. We have to immediately get serious about the Buddha's Dhamma. If we apply this to our lives, the life is like a drudgery. It goes on and on and on. There is no end to the work that we can do. And at some point, we have to become, what Bhaddiya, what Anuruddha has been telling. But there's too long a time. We cannot wait. There is no time to wait. Too long a time to wait, he says. Then the Raja says, wait, my friend, for 7 days while I hand over the kingdom to my sons and my brothers. He says, at least wait for 7 days. I have to renounce. I have to delegate my responsibilities before I leave the home with you. It also shows the friendship between Anuruddha and Bhaddiya. So Bhaddiya, the Sakyan Raja, and Anuruddha and Ananda and Bhagu and Kimbila and Devadatta. Just as they had so often previously gone out to the pleasure ground with fourfold array, even so did they now go out with fourfold array, and Upali the barber went with them, making 7 in all. So now you count the number. Bhaddiya, Anuruddha, Ananda, Bhagu, Kimbila, Devadatta, 6 of the Sakyans, the powerful Sakyans, left their house, and the 7th was Upali, and the story of Upali is going to come again. It's a very interesting story about Upali, because Upali was a barber, and these were all, from the royal families, these 6 of them, Kimbila, Devadatta, Bhagu, Ananda, Anuruddha, and Bhaddiya. And when they had gone some distance, they sent their retinue back and crossed over into neighborhood district and took off their fine things and wrapped them in their robes and made a bundle of them and said to Upali the barber, do you now, good Upali, turn back to Kapilvastu? These things will be sufficient for you to live upon. We will go and join the Blessed One. And so they went ahead. They went on, and Upali parted the company for the purpose of going back home. Now, this episode you just hold in your mind, because we are going to encounter this this episode again. So now coming back to the fourth section, and it gets very interesting from here onwards, and this is about again Shuddhodana's efforts to persuade his son. But I thought that we will leave here for today, and in the next we will continue the last attempt to make him a householder, and we will open up the class for the discussion today. Anything?
Yeshodhara asked her son Rahul to go to Buddha and ask for his inheritance.
Yeah.
And after that, Siddhartha Tathagat gives him permission to get admitted in Sangha. And then Yeshodhara did not refuse, nor she requested not to go with the Sangha. So what was in her mind for asking his inheritance? She also wanted that her son should get admitted in the Sangha.
I think so. I think any other comments by anybody, any reflections by anybody on this as to what might be the intention of Yeshodhara sending her son to her husband to ask for the inheritance?
Can I say something?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam, please.
Yeah. I feel that Yeshodhara, because Rahul didn't know who is his father. So when Buddha has come in front of her, so she felt that let me introduce my son to the father. That must be one intention, to tell about his father and how his father is, or who is his father. That all details she wanted to explain to the son. That could be one thing. And about the inheritance, Yeshodhara was very intelligent, and she knew that he has already left all Rajpat and everything. So whatever he has is something very great, something good, and even her son should get that. So that may be the intention, one of the intention to tell son about go and ask for the inheritance. And another thing, she was really a great mother, that she has brought up the child so well that he never knew that his father is somebody else. He was thinking that his grandfather is his father. So that's what I understood out of this.
The intention I did not understand.
So it's very difficult to fathom the intention of Yeshodhara of having sent Rahul to the Buddha, but we can know that all of them knew that the Buddha Siddhartha is no longer Siddhartha Gautam. He has become the Buddha. He has attained the truth. He was somebody who has seen the way it is, and I think that's very profound. And as we have seen that the Buddha has this very transforming effect on the people he encountered. And I'm sure that Yeshodhara was one person who knew Siddhartha, I would say metaphorically in and out, and she could have sensed that profundity in the Buddha when she met him. And we know that their determination, Yeshodhara and her mother-in-law Mahaprajapati, they were both so determined afterwards to become to practice the Dhamma, to understand the truth, to live the life of righteousness. So it's I think she saw something that the Buddha can give to Rahula. And Rahul is very young chap, he's just 7 years old. He doesn't understand anything. And there is a story that, how could you ordain a child in the Sangha? And that is how the tradition began of making the small kids, pronounce house. And it goes on everywhere in all Buddhist countries that they donate their sons to the Sangha. I think it's very interesting discussion of Rahula here, because as a small child he couldn't understand, and then he's of course he's entrusted to Sariputra, and Sariputra trains him. And Buddha at one point says that if anybody has a wisdom of sending the crows away from the grains, can learn the Dhamma. So you don't need a lot of intelligence to know the Dhamma, to learn the Dhamma. The intelligence of a boy enough that he understands that the crows are going to eat the grains and to send them away. If that intelligence, that sort of intelligence anybody is having, they are capable of learning the Dhamma. And I think upon there is also discussion that Suddhodana was very sad, and then he went to Tathagata and he told him that it's not good to ordain children like that. There has to be the consent of the parents. Then the Buddha made one condition before people went homeless, to seek the permission of their parents, and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure what was Yeshodhara's intention, and we have to know the personality of Yeshodhara. Of course, we need to read a lot about Yeshodhara and Mahaprajapati, because there is now in Buddhist literature a lot of things are available which talks about Yeshodhara, her personality. And as I told you that in Sri Lanka she has she has this a whole epic sort of a thing. A epical poem is written about her, the lamentation of Yeshodhara, where she is also demonstrated as to how strength of character she had and how courageous she was, and so on and so forth. So very difficult to fathom the intention of Yeshodhara, but she definitely saw something great in the Buddha. She definitely knew that the Buddha was onto something. Yes, madam.
Her mindset was also like Siddhartha Gautam.
Her mindset was also like
because at the time of marriage, her father did not like. She selected her as her would-be husband, but she asked her father that is there any wrong thing to be in company with Rishimuni? And then
good point, very good point.
Yeah. So without permission of her father, she gets married with Siddhartha. Yes. And also when Siddhartha was on the way for becoming enlightenment, attaining. So at that time when she is in palace, she lives her life, and then she hears that he has shaved his head. Then she also cuts her hair, and then she doesn't use any perfumes, ornament, and she eats only one time, that too in an earthen pot bowl like this. Totally, she was devoted.
She was also on the same path.
Yeah.
She was also on the same path, and she was a very mature person, very learned person. And to be Buddha at that time was something very, very, very big news, that to be awakened. And we know the cinematic versions of awakening and all, but you try to go back to the situation of that time, and somebody has awakened, somebody has become the Buddha, somebody has seen what it is all about, somebody has overcome his suffering, somebody who is full of love, unbound love, somebody who is very profound in his intellect and understanding. That sort of a personality is very attractive, and we people could almost submit to that. One cannot but submit to such a person, when you encounter such a consciousness. which is full of compassion and full of light, awakening. We need to study the life of Yeshodhara and Mahaprajapati and all these women in the Sangha. Yes.
This point. Okay, you go ahead.
Yes.
Good morning. I'm Sandesh Gaikwad.
Yes.
Really, Madam has a very nice question regarding asking Yeshodhara's intention. And just now you have discussed that her intentions were very clear, because she had also started the path of the what sort of life Buddha is living. So she's also on the path, but she has to stay with her in-laws just because of her son. And if the son also goes, then she's also ready to go to lead that path on which Buddha has started. So I think her intentions were very clear, as just now you discussed. And I also got this light that really when Madam asked this question, I was also thinking, what was the intention? Really, this question is very nice. But after the discussion, now it is also clear in our mind that really she has led the life of same like of a monk, and she was having a household life. But because of her responsibilities to take care of her in-laws and her son, she has to go. But if the son is going, definitely she's also is relieved from those responsibilities, and she'll also follow the path of Lord Buddha. So her intentions were very clear, that she wanted her child to go to become a monk, or that way. Yes, correct. Very nice discussion. Thank you, sir.
True, because at the time she tells Siddhartha that she would also join him. But she cannot, because she has to take care of her son and in-laws. She tells Siddhartha at the time he renounced his house. She wanted to go with him.
Yeah. So whenever people compare, many Hindus, they compare that the way Rama, the sort of life he has given to Sita, same sort of life she has suffered. Yashodhara also suffered, but there's a great difference. This we should be able to convince, not tell the people. No, there is a great difference between them. The way which Rama, what we can say, did with Sita, obviously Yeshodhara want to follow the path of Lord Buddha, and they were very much in the thought, in mind, they were very much to each other. And as we know the stories of Yeshodhara and Siddhartha, that in previous lives also they were many times they were husband wife or something like that. So this also we should be able to convince not convince, but to tell the Hindus that when they compare Rama Sita and Yeshodhara and Siddhartha Gautama.
Good point. Very good point.
Very good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
When Rahul was admitted in the Sangha, at that point, at that time, Suddhodana was very much depressed, and then he did not like. From that time only, then Gautama had made a rule that the permission of the parents should be taken before entering the Sangha for the children at whatever the age may be.
Yes.
Actually, shall I add something here?
Yes, please.
The comparison between Rama and Siddhartha Gautam, it is not fair. But I think, because there is a great difference. Rama was made to leave his kingdom and go out by his step mother. Whereas Siddhartha Gautam, willingly he left in search of the truth. But there was no binding on Rama to go outside in the forest and search for the truth. Actually, he was also contender for the throne of the king. And if Rama alone goes and Sita is left out there in the kingdom, then she would have claimed some sort of a post. So it was bounding on her to go with Rama. It is not that Sita also wanted to go. That whatever they might have written, I don't think that is true. But because that Bharat and other people, their mother, she don't wanted her to be there in the kingdom. So that's why there was no other alternative but to go with Rama. So comparison between the two is means it is not fair, I think.
Even sir, this instead of comparison, the comparison on front, Ramabai and Yeshodhara Mata, that would have been great. I happened to read one book, Yug Pravartak Mahilaye by Nanda Kishore Siddhartha. Just found the similarity between the life Yeshodhara lived and Rama lived. There is very, very great similarities between the lives. I'll just send that. It's this very small book and very, very read it. It can go by Nanda Kishore Siddhartha. Send that.
Very interesting discussion. See this, when we read the Buddha and Dhamma, we see this small paragraphs, but they have a very profound meaning. And I was really struck with what the Buddha taught his father in terms of love. And he says that your love for me is okay, but if you cultivate the same love for all the fellow human beings, you will receive more than you receive your son. So I think the one of the beauties of the Buddha and his Dhamma is this, that it's as I have been talking to you all the time, that it's a multi-layered text, and we unveil one layer, we find another and another and another and so forth. So deep. And that's what I think should be your attitude to read the Buddhism in terms of engaging with it all the time, with all our strengths that we have to discover this beautiful, one line can be of such a profound impact on us. And I think there is a design to Buddhism, and a design we need to understand that it's a very profound, I won't say text or document, as I was telling you in the last class about R.R. Bhole, who says that it's a memorial of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. It's a living memorial of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. It's not just a book. It is not just a sacred book. It is not just a holy book. It's all that, but it's something more than that. It lets us a glimpse into the mind of Babasaheb Ambedkar, and his love for the Buddha, his deep understanding of the Buddha's teaching, and how the way he has selected this various selections in the Buddha and Dhamma. I think it needs a lot of meticulous study and a lot of planning and a lot of understanding of the people to whom he is going to hand over this heritage, the treasure. And having said this, I personally think that this book is written in a way that it forms a complete system, a complete container, I would say, of the Buddha's Dhamma in all different aspects. And that's what we can begin to see when we study or understand the various parts and the sections within those parts and those individual sentences and the use of words and the images and so on and so forth. So we will keep on doing this. We are just through book number 2 and part number 5. We are halfway through and we will finish this book number 2, the conversion of the way the Buddha converted people, the way Buddha taught people And there is a lesson for all of us here when we read this part 2 as to what should be our approach when we discuss about the Dhamma, when we communicate the teachings of the Buddha with other people. And I think that was a very good discussion that we had today, brought up Balka Madam and Gaikwad Sahab and Dahiwale Sahab about, the intention of Yeshodhara. So many a times.
Actually, there is no literature on Yeshodhara.
Yes.
Yeshodhara's character was very powerful. We get to know it from various occasions and various dialogues between Siddhartha and then Tathagat Gautam Buddha, then a dialogue with Suddhodana and Mahaprajapati and with Rahula, etc. It is very powerful. And she was very courageous lady and like-minded like Buddha.
Yes. She became, she became, we can say, a female Buddha afterwards. And I think this is a great message because, the patriarchal system, gender bias entered into Buddhism, and it was taught that, the women could never attain to the Buddhahood in their physical bodies. They have to become a man to become the Buddha, and all this patriarchal thinking entered into Buddha, in Buddhism also. But Yeshodhara and Mahaprajapati, they are the archetype of enlightened women, the very mother of the Buddha, the very wife of the Buddha. They had attained to the fruits of awakening. So with this, we will conclude our class today. If there is anything that you would like to share next 2 minutes, or we will end our class today. Okay, then see you next week, and we will keep on studying the chapters of the Buddha and Dhamma.
Jai Bhim, Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim.